Good afternoon, everyone. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight series. And today's show I've been waiting for on pins and needles for about a week now because I've been able to book Mr. Joshua Kreitzer, who's the CEO and founder of Channel Bakers. And they are a wonderful company. You've probably heard of Joshua. He runs an amazing full-service Amazon advertising agency. And what he's been able to do from the ground up since starting this company is truly an inspiration. And Joshua, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's a real honor to have you here.
Yeah, you got it, man. I've been looking forward to it too, because as far as I understand, if we're talking to entrepreneurs, and that's one of my favorite audiences in the world, I'll tell you real quick. I used to say this, and it showed up in my Facebook time hub a minute ago, but I used to say this all the time. I'm an entrepreneur stuck in an employee's career. And I posted that back in 2009 on Facebook, and my time hop the other day came up, and I was like, oh, that's so cool to be able to reflect on that concept.
Well, I love it. And you have so much energy. When we spoke on the phone prior to sort of get ready for the interview to learn more about what you're doing at the Channel Bakers, your energy and positive vibe came through on the phone, and I know it's coming through on this video as well. Let's pull the lens back a little bit for, in the unlikely event that someone watching this has not heard of Channel Bakers, and let's tell them what you do at a high level and how you're able to help so many powerful brands and so many powerful companies.
Yeah, it's part of the story, and if we get a chance to talk about that, I'll tell you about that. But part of the story, real quick synopsis, is that once upon a time, at a time in history, and I use big hands when I do this from the stage, but at a time in history when Amazon decided to take on Google in the landscape of digital advertising and paid search advertising, Channel Bakers was formed out of that, and the part of my story, getting to be a beta tester for it way back when I was at GoPro, about a year and a half before it launched. And that's the narrative that went off in my mind over and over again. And ultimately what we do is leverage Amazon's advertising tools to be able to help brands. And actually, I say brands, it doesn't have to be necessarily a retail manufacturer who creates a product that goes on a physical retail shelf or a digital shelf. That is the core endemic audience of who we help. That's who we serve. But because of the cool things Amazon has done in the advertising landscape, we can even help anybody with a brand literally put their brand on televisions and OTT devices around the country. And Amazon gives us a lot of fun targeting capabilities that no one else can, using things like shopper behavior data. So that's the win. We can put whatever you need to have a new message in 2021 coming out of a COVID and the pandemic. Your brand needs to have a message, and we like using Amazon advertising to tell that story for you to your beloved audience who you love and who love you. That's there. Sorry, might have got a little long-winded.
No, that's great, Joshua. So everybody's talking about data, and there's now shows on Netflix that are talking about behavior and data and what's happening with your data. And what people fail to realize sometimes is that data is really a good thing if it provides a user experience that's going to be a powerful, positive user experience. So how does Channel Bakers use data to give your clients a positive experience for their customers?
Right. Man, we can have an entire webinar series on this topic. But here, when it comes to data, number one, when it comes to the social dilemma as an example on Netflix, it really got me in the mindset of like, oh, that is how they're using our data. I understand it, but I didn't realize to what degree they were tracking what, right? So I'll give you a fun example. Maybe you're a guy or girl looking at your ex-boyfriend, girlfriend from high school and liking all their pictures. All of a sudden, you may get an ad for a divorce attorney, right? Like that's a little on the creepy side, right? But on the inverse, I think about Amazon data and shopper behavior data, and Amazon using your data. It's very safe for you as a user, but also for a brand, it's brand safe data. And looking at that, think about this. Every January, and I'm waiting for it to come out, it gets reported who is the #1 trusted brand in America. Last year, before COVID, USPS was the #1 trusted brand, the US Postal Service. Amazon was #2. I venture to say that changed after COVID because of all the amazing things that Amazon did to really help flatten the curve and turn this thing around. That's, again, another topic for another day. But think about Jeff Bezos has taken 20 years to build trust with the American consumer to the degree that he's #2, but I bet you he was right there. I think it was like USPS was 48% of Americans trust them and Amazon was 43. Well, they're like right there, right? Do you think he's gonna like tarnish that brand trust with the American consumer and now consumers around the world because he's gonna use your data unscrupulously? Absolutely not. He's actually got a really awesome ad platform. It's kind of like a personal shopper in a sense. You bought the shoes, why didn't you buy the belt, right? So that's the fun way we like to tinker with the data. We like to look at Amazon search data as a behavioral trend. I'll give you a fun one. I'm going to give you the answer. Pop quiz. What was the #1 most frequently searched product item on Amazon in the year 2017? It was adult coloring books and the #1 clicked on and purchased adult coloring book was Calm the F Down, an irreverent guide to stress relief. What does that say about us as a society in the United States? We're stressed out. So that's how we like to look at data. Then we look at, we just have a lot of fun with it. I'll stop there because I could go all day on this topic. But Amazon search data, Google search data, that's like the Bible. That shows us, search trends and what people are looking for.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, Joshua. And obviously Channel Bakers is known for being able to help your clients using data in a very powerful way. Personally, I love going on Amazon and having them tell me what I need. I kind of enjoy that because typically they're right. So that's a good way that data is being used.
So there's a quick epic battle between brands and Amazon all the time. And we came out with these fun t-shirts that say, I got 99 problems, Amazon ain't one. We did that for NAMM, the music industry trade show, but yeah, I think consumers love the experience. We're here to help brands who are having a tough go.
So let's talk about that for a minute because we're going to have obviously some younger entrepreneurs watching the show, as well as some entrepreneurs that have a company that's already evolved into the $1 million or $100 million range and even higher. But let's specifically talk about startup entrepreneurs because we do a lot of conversations with people in Silicon Valley, and there's a lot of startups still happening. Is your company positioned nicely to help a startup entrepreneur with getting his brand out there, or do you more specifically take on the more mature companies at this point in time?
Young early startups that have done something awesome in Kickstarter and have gotten some traction and have a truly innovative product. And I'm gonna lean on the side of anybody as an entrepreneur who has products. That is probably who I could help. If they've done a good job there, then that means their brand has and their product has some, runway in front of it. That's who we can help. We've had folks come to me and offer me equity and such, just like, hey, help me, right? I simply don't have that kind of time and bandwidth, but if your brand's gotten some traction, we can absolutely help there.
See, that's great. And obviously you've helped a lot of bigger companies, and it all comes down to bandwidth and specializing in what you can help your customers with. Let's talk about, Joshua, sort of the consumer experience, because brands in today's world, it's so important for their customers or consumers to have a positive, powerful consumer experience. So let's talk about that a little bit from your perspective, and let's see like where you stand from Channel Bakers in terms of the powerful user experience that your clients give to their customers.
Oh, dude. Fantastic. I'm in this conference room that we built specifically to the phrase customer experience. I eat, breathe, sleep customer experience. It is the way, right? And looking even at this room, I built these call rooms because we're an agency that helps brands and we want to give them an amazing experience. It's a very stressful landscape in the retail e-commerce world, as well as just retail brick and mortar. Everything's a fire drill. And, you know, I wanted my clientele to have an experience with my team that's like nice and quiet and clean, versus if you're having a bad day and the noise around out there is going like everybody's high-fiving, like that's not helping you at all. So customer experience is critical. This room that I'm in was centered around, all of these call rooms were centered around driving customer experience. Now, for brands, it's the everyday conversation. And in the world of e-commerce, like packaging is now also critical for you to think about from a customer experience standpoint. And Apple does it well. Like in the early days, I bought like refurbed Apple laptops because, again, I was trying to save a buck. And they came in the exact same customer experience as you get a brand new laptop. It's in the same box, and it just has a little refurb sticker on it, and you still get that like peeling of the plastic, the smell of a new laptop. You got everything that you otherwise would get. Packaging is going to be critical. And again, packaging could be physical packaging. It could be the way you package your brand, all of the above. But I mean, I can, oh God, thanks, man. This is one of my favorite topics.
So let's dive into it just a little bit, because we find young entrepreneurs sometimes, they get so excited about their technology, or they get so excited about the inner workings of their company and what's all happening, that when we talk to them sometimes, they never even mention the customer. They're so involved with their technology and inner workings of their business, sometimes they don't even mention what they're doing for their customer. Do you ever come across that in your line of work at Channel Bakers, where you talk to somebody and the last thing they talk about is the customer?
Unfortunately, yes, of course. You know, I mean, even in the landscape of trying to help them figure out who they should be talking to and targeting, right? That's where we remind them that it's important to keep customer top of mind. In the Amazon landscape, however, product reviews are a big deal. And so, you know, I would say a win in the landscape of customer experience for the retail world is, yeah, absolutely product reviews. And brands, if they use that data well, then they can also shape their roadmap from it. They can also then figure out how to make that customer experience better. But if you don't use that input, and it's a live soundboard, if you will, right, of hints on what you should do next with your product, it's coming from the customer base. The customer experience that concept is why Bezos is who Bezos is, right? Like that's why Amazon is where they are. It's because at a time in history when the customer experience was, I'm afraid to put my credit card on the interwebs, right? He's like, no. What I got to do is build trust with the American consumer. That's the experience he delivers, and that's why, you know, everything Amazon is centered around. It's the core tenet. They focus on customer experience. That's why they are where they are. So this is one of my favorite topics. We can keep going on it if you want.
Well, I have one more question for you, Joshua, because I know you've only allotted a certain amount of time for us today. And you know, we allotted more time than usual because I was so excited to get you on the show. So let's talk a little bit about sort of the way I say it is good money versus bad money. Good money is maybe one of your company, or not one of your companies, but a company makes a sale to a customer, but that's it. They make one sale. There's no additional sales on top of that. There's no additional customer follow-up. There's no additional contact points with that customer. They make the sale and then they kind of forget about that customer. And then good money might be where they make a sale to the customer. They know they put all this time, energy, and effort into getting that customer to buy their product or service. And then they continue to stay involved with that customer. They continue to have contact points with that customer. They continue to nurture that relationship so that customer becomes a repeat customer. Is that something that you see as one of the one of the high value propositions of the powerful brands that are becoming more successful than others?
You know, I love these questions, by the way, because like I can keep going all day, just centered around, you know, the answer to that. So, you know, good brands, whether it's whatever the brand type is, whether you're even me as an agency, like I get that feedback too as an agency owner. Like, you know, how often do we get to talk to Josh and what value he brings in? Like, right. So this is a fun part of scaling too, right? Looking though at product specific, you know, depending on the type of product you are, and I'm going to use products for now. Depending upon the type of product you are, do you have a subscription-based model type of product? But the other part of this conversation that got me like really smiling was, you know, the relationship with the customer, client, and owning customer information for brands is a big talk track because they do want to continue the conversation. But if that sale happened at a retail world, they don't know who that customer is until they register the product. That's a plug for some of my friends out there. I'll tell you about that another day. But thinking about that, you know, that relationship is critical. And the customer relationship doesn't end at the sale. That's what I think you're alluding to, right? But when it comes to products, the experience doesn't end at the time that they check it out of the cart, right? And that's why I was touching on packaging. So it's a great tie-in to that and their post-purchase experience. And post-purchase experience will, in the landscape of the consumer decision journey, it's not something you should forget about because it creates that loyalty loop and brings them right back to you, right? So I don't know if I went too far on a tangent there, but long and short of it, you know, customer relationship and post-purchase experience are a massive part of the overall customer experience, which you should be obsessing about no matter who you are if you have a brand.
Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. And you've actually, you know, consolidated what I said in a much more eloquent way. So thank you, Joshua. When we talk about a product, someone that has a nice product, it's out there in the market, they're saying to themselves, you know, my minimal viable product's done. I'm actually now starting to really sell a lot of these. I've got some money in the bank. I've got some investors coming in. Things are looking really good, but now I really want to put this program on a whole different level, on a whole different pinnacle. And they reach out to channel bakers because obviously they've heard about your success stories and what you're able to do for some of your large brands. Could you walk us through a little bit, sort of how you figure out where they currently are, and then maybe where you as their full service Amazon advertising agency can take them? Like, what types of questions do you ask those people, and what's the process for channel bakers to give them this amazing service that you've been able to put together with your company?
So to summarize, it's a two-part question. It's how do we identify what they need, and then how do we give them a plan, if you will, right? And what's that process? What do we look at? All the things.
Yeah.
Fun. All right. So, you know, to the earlier point, you know, I will touch on this just to give you fun evolution history of the Amazon ad platform. You know, in the early days, it was all about this search thing that they did. And that was where you said, okay, now MVP, minimum viable product. Now everybody understands Amazon search, right? You know, looking forward, we got to keep thinking about moving them forward. And yeah, that looks like, hey, absolutely what the data says. And by the way, it's data first, always data first. But you should never forget about the human connection element of it too, through that customer experience. So we look at those two things. And in the landscape of marketing, we've been saying, you know, emotional attachment to your product forever, right? Try to create the emotional attachment. Now it's fun because we get to leverage data to help us identify how they could better create the emotional attachment. And then that adjusts everything about the strategy. from the creative you use, from the imagery you have in your carousel on Amazon or your own site, especially imagery today with mobile being the last stat, this is old, 51% of US households use an app to purchase. The next organic question, what app do they use more than anybody else? Yeah, that's also the Amazon app. And in that landscape, when you click on the image gallery, it no longer does that weird zoom thing. It opens up the image to the entire image gallery. I'm giving away one of our fun things we like to do here, but tell your story. Thank you, Tinder, for causing people to swipe left and right. Now you get to tell your story through your image gallery, right? And it's no longer about a lifestyle image. I mean, it drives me nuts when I hear like, oh, I got my lifestyle images. Yeah, what is your lifestyle image trying to tell me, right? And we walk, and we'll do this with a client. We'll storyboard, and then we'll go through and say, okay, look, here's what the data says. That identified the product that needs help. And we also grabbed a ton of keyword information out of that. We pulled some stuff out of your reviews. Let's look at your competitors' reviews as well and identify what they're not saying and or where you have a value prop against them. And let's put that all into your image gallery, and we'll storyboard it. And then as they swipe, they're just driving a deeper emotional attachment. And then, yeah, of course, we track that. That's fun. And that's how we leverage data. Again, it's data first. Anytime somebody comes to me and says I have a problem, I try to jump to the data, right, as quickly as possible. And then we'll do a proper creative audit and things of that nature. But like, this is using data to tell your story. And that's like, one of my fastest growing departments here is my creative team, because more and more brands are recognizing that like my old lifestyle photos from when we first made that product 10 years ago aren't going to cut it. Right?
That's amazing. That's amazing, Joshua. I mean, just the idea of using data to tell your story it's worth its weight in gold. It is so powerful. Yeah. And a lot of people that are in charge of companies and in charge of brands and CMOs and executives and C-level execs, they don't really perhaps think about it in those terms. And that's really powerful, to use data to tell your story. And then as you're telling your story, what I think you're saying, Joshua, is you accumulate more data so that then you can tell even a better story and go deeper and deeper and deeper into the psychological profile of your customer.
Yep. And I tell them this too. That's going to continue to evolve. Like gone are the days when you take a stock photo set of your product and then put it up on the interwebs and hope to sell something. You've got to use data to adapt, adjust, execute your strategy and the way you're telling your story. I'm doing it right now. Our new website goes live in like 4 hours. All right. That's continually evolving, right? You've got to continue to tell your story.
Well, that is absolutely fantastic. A way to interconnect everything that's happening in today's world with channel bakers to use data to tell a story. And then what I really like about what I'm hearing, Joshua, is you always take into account also the user experience. So it's not only telling the story to the user and the customer, but it's making that customer experience world-class so that they keep coming back for more product. And that's one of the things that you're an expert at with your very diversified team over at Channel Bakers. Let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurship just for a minute while I have you on the show today. You've got a very interesting, I guess it's a quote over your left shoulder, and maybe you could talk a little bit what's on the wall. Everybody has talent. Well, tell us a little bit about that, because I think some of our viewers might even know that quote.
Yeah, all right. So I love this quote. It was a George Lucas quote. That's George behind me, right? And I love it for a lot of reasons, but for entrepreneurs, I think that's my favorite reason. And the thing is this: I did Amway, I did multi-level marketing, I did car washing, I did whatever I could because I knew deep down I was an entrepreneur, but I had to move around a bunch. And I took from all of those experiences things that have brought me to where I am at this moment, right? And so everybody has talent. It's a matter of moving around just a little until you discover what it is. that's something he said when he was getting criticized in the middle of filming the first Star Wars, right? Even George Lucas was doubted or doubting himself. Like, no, this is a quote from a very successful entrepreneur. And it helps entrepreneurs go, okay, I failed at that one. That doesn't mean I'm not an entrepreneur, right? Or that didn't pan out the way I'd hoped it had. I'm going to do something else. Or I started this entrepreneurial journey and now I got to focus on some new part of the entrepreneurial journey. And I didn't even realize I had talent for that as I do that, right? So this is why I chose this room, because of your audience. The other one I was going to choose, I got an Albert Einstein room, and the quote on that wall is, try not to become a man of success, but rather become a man of value. And everything I do is focused on adding value, finding a way in a new relationship to add value, and putting value forward. Like, always value first, then have a discussion about how that value could be monetized and make it beneficial for a win-win, but always value first, add value, right? So I was torn between these two rooms. And then the other, real quick, sorry, go a little long on this one, but the other audience was actually for my team. I scaled on Outset by hiring a bunch of fresh out of college, grads. And everybody started in this area we called the pit. And the pit was like, if you've ever seen Princess Bride, the pit of despair was like the opposite of the pit of despair. It was the pit where we identified what your strengths were. And then you went on a journey through our walls on what you could do here. And out of that, that has amazing stories of people who have been killing it here from day one and are still here. And their journey on this, everybody has talent. It's just a matter of moving around a little bit to discover what it is. I've got like 5 stories on tap, ready to go. So nonetheless, it was really also fun for me to have this quote here because my team uses it. And I believe in, sure, now it's Gen Z, but like fresh out of college grads and fresh out of high school grads, like that is a fun audience that, has a lot of negative narratives about being self-centered and so forth. My whole office on every wall is focused on helping other people and adding value. So like I said, I was torn between this quote, I was torn between the Albert Einstein quote in the other room, but that's why that quote's there, and that's who said it.
I love that quote. Everybody has talent. It's just a matter of moving around until you've discovered what it is. And you've done a remarkable job building a great team and allowing them to find out what makes them tick so that they can help your clients tick. So it's incredible what you've been able to do.
Yeah.
One other question about entrepreneurship, and again, I know we're going a little long here, Joshua, but I've got you on the show, so I'm not going to let you go because I don't know when I'm going to get you on again.
I'm a talker. It's fine.
Okay, so Joshua, we're going to have some entrepreneurs, some younger entrepreneurs that are maybe, let's just say, they're going through a tough time with their business, or they're scraping their knees a little bit, or they're getting a little confused because it's not going as well as they want it to go. And you're known for, speaking in front of large groups and building this company and being a positive person and being able to positively motivate people. So maybe you could sort of look in the camera and talk to those people that maybe are having a little bit of a tough time with their business or even their personal life right now, and tell them like some sage advice from Joshua Kreitzer on how they might be able to move forward a little bit and get this thing back going good.
Oh, geez. All right. There are so many arrows in the quiver that I can shoot at the audience to help them on their path. But I think right now, the number one talk track out in the world is mental health, right? And really what you're addressing here is that topic. So let me give you that. I let fear drive for a while, and that was not fun. I was talking to holding companies about selling the company, and they always like to belittle you and make you feel small. And one of them got inside my head for a minute. And I really needed to focus on getting myself out of that. And listen, part of this exit of the tunnel, if you will, you go into a tunnel, it gets dark, it gets scary, right? Part of the exit is creating like anchor hook statements, right? And that's really where, and you've got to break the patterns that took place through your negative journey. But on your entrepreneurial journey. Forget it. In life, right? You're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have these tunnels. But in the entrepreneurial journey, the number I heard last was like 83% of CEOs struggle with anxiety and depression. Mental health for us is amplified because we're also taking care of other people and responsible for the livelihood of other people's lives, right? Other people's livelihoods. So, for me, it's capturing the negative thought. And I actually, work with a coach on this topic specifically who really grabbed my hand in the tunnel, taught me about the tunnel, pulled me out of the tunnel, a gentleman named Raul Velasquez. And he and I, I learned a lot from this guy about tactics to change the mental game. And it's a battlefield out there, right? It's a battlefield of the mind. And so here, I'm just going to give you a couple of them. Number one, let go of the expectation of the outcome you had in mind. Let go of expectations, period. Expectation is the mother of all disappointment. It's like a Brazilian proverb, I think, something along those lines, right? So that's one. The other, and I love this tactic, on your nightstand is a notepad. And whether you wake up in the middle of the night, and I don't know why when I wake up in the middle of the night, all the negative thoughts rush to my mind. I'm sure there's science about that, but there's a notepad and I write down the negative statement and I get it off my chest, I write it down. And whether I do it in that moment or I do it the next day when I've had some sleep or what have you, literally write the exact positive counter statement to the negative statement that you initially wrote down, right? Then, and I got this from a pastor friend of mine, then you build out a strategy to make that positive counter statement become a reality. And then you set a couple of milestones along the way to make sure that you're making progress on it, right? But then the other piece of that, so that, by the way, and then by the way, you never look at the negative statement again, by the way, you burn that, okay? But looking at the other end of that spectrum too is, the positive counter statement should be something that you state out loud as much as you possibly can, especially when that negative thought comes to mind. And again, negative thoughts are the negative thought patterns I'm talking about. It'll be a narrative that somehow got inside your head, some story that got inside your head, right? Stop. Focus on the positive counter statement, right? And that would be the thing, journal. And when I say journal, writing out the story about my day is not the thing. What I journal and what I teach my team to journal, and this will be the thing that I leave with you with regard to that sage wise wisdom. I journal daily wins, okay? Big wins, small wins, whatever. And I focus on journaling the wins. When I was unemployed and I lost my job and we were on food stamps and it was awful and all of the above, I looked back at all of the wins that I had journaled in my career. And that helped me reshape my resume as I was applying every single morning for 100 new jobs. And it's all automated these days. And they're looking for keywords, right? All those wins helped me shape multiple different versions of my resume that was relevant to who I was submitting it to. But it also helped me in that 6-month period where I could have gone down a crazy path of depression, being unemployed for a minute. And that's happening to people right now. That daily wins and my bicycle were the two things that helped me stave off depression. I didn't even get depressed. I didn't even stress because it helped me recognize my value. And just because somebody didn't see my value didn't mean I wasn't valuable. So says all my wins. And you shouldn't do this from a narcissistic, self-serving, do not let it build an ego, but know your value. And that's why I have all those wins. And I get really granular with the way I write them. It'll be the qualitative statement and the data point behind it that validates the qualitative statement. And I teach this to people who come interview here. Your resume should be littered with nothing but selected achievements. We know what the job role is that we wrote. You don't need to tell us that that's kind of what you did in a paragraph, right? Three sentence paragraph. No, just give us all your wins. That helps us identify your value over everybody else we're looking at. It also staves off depression. It also helps you tactically in the battlefield of the mind on a daily basis, right? Just if you're going to journal your daily wins, not from an ego standpoint, not from a narcissistic standpoint, but just to help you through your mental game.
Wow, I love that, Joshua. That's amazing. As you were talking, I was thinking about what fun it would be for someone just to have a resume with their name and their address and their phone number, and then it just says my wins, and then it's just listed all the way down the resume. I bet that would catch somebody's attention.
I mean, there's some cool stuff happening on LinkedIn with regard to resumes, and That could be a good one.
Super cool. Joshua, I am so excited that we had a chance to get you on the show. You're an all-American success story. You know, you've seen sort of the darkness, but you've been able to light a candle and light up the dark room in your life and in your company to be a bright, shining beacon. And congratulations for doing that. Channel Bakers is knocking the cover off the ball, and we're just delighted to have you on the show. And this is all and more of what I thought it might be after trying so hard to get you on the show, Joshua. So thank you so much for joining the show today.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to do more. Love to talk to that entrepreneurial audience. You guys are awesome. Keep kicking ass.
Thank you very much.